What's up, nerds? It's the Film Grouch. I'm Rick Swift, and I'm joined today by...
Madison Swift. You're joined every day by Madison Swift. Get it straight.
Well, yeah, but sometimes on the Film Grouch show, I like to mix it up a little bit. If there's some movies that Madison doesn't like to talk about, or maybe hasn't seen, so then I had my friend Emma Darwin do the Into the Spider-Verse podcast, which you can also listen to that as well. But 99.9% of the time, I am joined by my lovely wife, Madison Swift.
Damn straight.
Damn straight. So, Madison, we are going to do a new bit on the Film Grouch show called He Picks, She Picks. So, this week, or this episode, I got to pick the movie, and then next week, or next episode, Madison will pick the next film. So, that's the way we're going to do it. So it'll be me, then her, then me, then her, and forever. So the movie that I chose was a movie that I was surprised that Madison had never seen, and I found out about it by watching Ted 2.
Ted.
Was it just Ted?
Ted.
See, I'm terrible. So that's why I have her. She makes sure I don't sound like a complete yutz. So Ted had a very impactful cameo by one...
Sam Jones.
Yes, Sam Jones. And Sam Jones is, like, out of his mind in Ted when he has his cameo. And he basically reveals a little bit about Flash Gordon there. And that was when I found out that Madison had actually never seen Flash Gordon. And I've been bugging her about it for a while to watch it.
Ever since Ted came out.
Ever since Ted came out, really, yeah. But then you actually came to me last week and said...
Well, I was listening to my iPod, and all of a sudden the Flash Gordon theme song popped on, and I'm like, how the hell did this get on my iPod? And I looked, and it was part of the Queen's Greatest Hits album, which I downloaded after I watched Bohemian Rhapsody. And then I realized that Queen did the music for Flash Gordon, and I love Queen, so that is what finally prompted me to want to watch Flash Gordon.
I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
I like to play with things a while before annihilation. Pathetic Earthlings! Who can save you now? Hush! Strange object imaged in the Imperial Vortex. Remove the Earthwoman. Prepare her for our pleasure.
Don't kill him yet, Father. I want him. Go, Flash, go!
Yes, and so last night we watched it in all of its cheesy glory.
That's funny because cheesy is the first note I wrote down about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I saw it again, and I've told you this before, but they don't know. I saw this at a summer camp when I was a kid, and I remember distinctly this was one of the first times that I was in a movie theater that I wasn't with my parents, and we were all sitting there, and everybody was pretty much misbehaving. We were all screaming at the movie theater, start the show, and even me with my little nerdiness, I was even getting into it and like banging on the... Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So when the movie first starts up, I'm like, oh, this is incredible. And you gotta remember, this was 1980, so I was probably 7, even though it came out when I was 6. Oh, and that's another thing we do on this show, the Film Grouch show. We have a secret word that we do. So there's a word of the day. It's actually the dictionary.com word of the day that we choose. And we try to use it in our podcast. And then whoever uses it the most gets the most points, and then they win that podcast. So I lost my train of thought.
And we also talk about what happened on the release date.
Yes. I don't actually pick the actual year because I'm a history major, so I like to talk about historical events that took place on the same day. So this movie actually came out December 5th.
1980.
1980. But something very close to home happened here in World War II on December 5th, and it's the story of Flight 19. And if you're not familiar with Flight 19, it's still an unsolved mystery of the flight of, I want to make sure I get it right here, the Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, which was actually the first model that I had as a kid, was the Avenger torpedo bomber, the dive bomber. You might not know this, but George Bush, Senior, he actually was out of Fort Lauderdale in World War II. He was actually out here in Fort Lauderdale, and I guess in the same squadron. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, that Flight 19, it actually disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle and has never been. They never really found out how that happened. And, Flight 19, for those fans of mine that like the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, that is their cheering section. That's kind of their rowdies are called Flight 19. So that's in reference to Flight 19. So anyway, It's interesting though that I saw Flight 19. As soon as I saw that, I said this is perfect for this movie because that's how the movie starts.
Yes. Let's talk about the movie.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the movie starts.
Go ahead.
You go.
Okay.
I talk too much, clearly. Go ahead.
Okay, so a little synopsis of Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon is this guy. He's a quarterback for the New York Jets, which is a football team.
Boo.
And I guess he's famous. I guess he's like Joe Namath.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Joe Namath of him.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah.
Because of my mom.
Yes.
And so he's getting on an airplane, and it's a small private airplane, and he gets on the airplane with this lady. Her name is Dale Arden, and he noticed her the night before at their little hotel that they were staying at. So they get on this airplane, and there's all this turbulence, and all of a sudden the pilot and the co-pilot disappear.
Yes.
And they made a point of mentioning that Flash had been taking flying lessons. So Flash takes over, and they crash land in this weird scientist guy's greenhouse. And then the scientist guy, Dr. Zarkov, he says, he basically kidnaps them and says, we have to get in my rocket ship and go to outer space. So they get in this rocket ship and they go to outer space.
Yep.
Let me point out that they don't put on helmets or spacesuits. So they just get in this rocket ship and they go to outer space.
Yeah.
And then they end up in Emperor Ming's palace. Did I leave anything out? Oh, they fall asleep.
Well, yeah, they fall asleep, and there's like this trippy Queen music that plays, and while they're like swirling around in space in the great unknown. Yeah.
Yeah. And they end up in Emperor Ming's palace. Now, Emperor Ming caused all this chaos on Earth with his weather machine.
Yes. His weather weapon.
Yeah, his weather weapon. And that's why there was all the turbulence and the pilots disappeared. We never find out what happened to the pilots.
No, in fact, they actually show Ming at one point, like in the clouds, going ah, and then the pilots are just gone.
Oh yeah,
and you're like, okay,
maybe
so that
he
happened.
ate them.
Maybe he was like a giant, like maybe he was Snoke. I don't know.
Maybe. So they go to the palace, and Ming is this dictator type guy, and he has all the different people in his realm, all the different I don't know,
subjects.
Yeah, all the subjects. It's these different groups of people. And they have to give him offerings, otherwise he'll kill them, basically.
Yeah.
And this guy, Flash Gordon, he's not really that bright because he keeps making these comments, and he blurts out, "This Ming's a psycho!" And then there's this robot guy, and he repeats it. He broadcasts this guy's inner thoughts that he blurted out. And then Flash Gordon plays football in the palace, basically.
This is all accurate, yeah. I'm waiting to see you say something wrong. So far, you're right.
In the throne room. And then he gets sentenced to death.
Yeah, for being, for attacking Ming's guards and everything. Yeah. It's really funny because his henchman, Clytus, is this guy who looks kind of like Destro from G.I. Joe. He has like a silver face, and you never see his face, actually, but he's this perfect henchman. I mean, his voice is like silky, evil goodness. It's just great. He's like, oh, yes, Flash Gordon. You know, like he's just pure evil. But there's a scene, and I read about this in some of the notes. There was a lot of confusion in whether or not this movie was supposed to be taken seriously or a comedy.
And that's what I wrote down. I'm like, what even is this movie? Is it a sci-fi? Is it a comedy? Is it an action movie? Is it an adventure movie? What even is this movie?
It's fucking Flash Gordon, man. That's what it is. I mean,
I just
awesome.
don't know. I don't know.
And okay, this came out, again, 1980, so Star Wars had just come out a few years before. And, well, you're going to mention a little bit about that when we get into that. Mm-hmm. But it was just so... I think that the movie, if it came out now, it would be done so much better. They could do a lot more with it. And I actually found out that they have a series, they had a series in 2007, I guess in Canada, that ran about 20 episodes, that was Flash Gordon, but I never heard about it. And but I think there's a lot of elements of this movie that really were interesting to me. And again, when I saw it as a kid, I probably just thought that the characters were cool and there was a lot of, you know, goofy action and stuff like that. And I really liked the Hawkmen, and there was a lot of scenes in it that we'll talk about in a second. But it's just one of these movies that resonates with me from my youth. So I don't know, like if I tried to have my kid watch it right now, he'd probably be like, "Dad, what's wrong with you?"
This is weird.
Like I haven't even wanted him to watch it yet. Also, there's a lot of strange sexual energy.
Let's talk about
violence in this movie.
Ming's daughter.
Yeah, let's talk about Ming's daughter.
I kept writing down mean things about her. Like, what's up with her? She's kind of slutty. She needs to put more clothes on. And then something happens to her, and then I wrote down, now I feel bad. Feels bad, man. Because her character kind of took a turn. So she wasn't at all what I thought she was at first. So...
Yeah, and I'm not going to worry about spoilers because this movie came out 1 billion years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you find out that she's actually working with the Resistance to overthrow her father because her father is completely batshit, out of his mind, evil, insane. So she's working with the Prince of Arborea or whatever, which some of the names of these places were kind of, you know, a little on the nose. Like, it's a planet of trees, so they're, you know, Arborea and... Yeah, and that's Timothy Dalton. And I found out there's actually a few James Bond actors in this movie that later on become in James Bond or were before or whatever. But yeah, Timothy Dalton is this, like, he has the greatest line in the movie, though, to me. When she kisses him and she says, "I'll be there, I'll join you on Arborea." And he kisses her and he goes, "Lying bitch." I wrote that down and I was like, that's a great line right there, man. It's funny how sometimes in movies... You won't remember a lot about the movies, but you'll remember, like, you know, it's kind of like when you give a presentation. People won't remember what you told them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that scene, just, I felt like there's a lot conveyed in those 2 words that you really get an understanding where these characters stand with each other. And it's really interesting. Everybody in this movie is very, like, in the moment. Like, they are in their world, and then Flash Gordon comes along and is kind of like this weird fly in the ointment that wants to change the way things are running.
Yes, he does.
Which I really liked. And it wasn't like they immediately were like, okay, let's join the Resistance and let's like, he has to kind of convince them. I mean, he is kind of an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
But he's just pure muscle moron, you know? He's just, what do you call him? A himbo. He's the perfect himbo. Yes,
he's a himbo. Another time he makes, I wrote down, he's either making inane commentary or making football analogies.
Yes.
Another time he said, out loud, "This place is an insane asylum."
Well, I mean...
Why would... That's kind of insulting to the place where you're at.
Well, everywhere he went, they were trying to kill him.
That is true. He kept ending up a prisoner.
Everywhere he went, they were either trying to kill him or fuck him.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which, I mean, okay, that's Ming's daughter, Princess Alora.
Aura?
Aura, I don't know. Again, I'm terrible at names. But she's very she wants to just fuck everything, which is kind of like, okay.
That's why I wrote she's also slutty.
Yeah, she's very slutty. And there's a great scene at the end where she fights with Dale that I didn't mind, that's for sure. It's a pillow fight in this giant, like, harem type.
It was like a room that was a bed.
Yeah, seriously. The whole room is a giant bed. I don't know where they had to, like, go to Saudi Arabia or something like that. Some weird sex sultan guy or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so this movie was just kind of cheesy awesome to me. But, okay, when I was a kid, I was highly traumatized by a few of the scenes in the movie. And it's funny because when you reacted, I would tell you, yep, that's exactly how I reacted when I saw this as a kid. It's pretty unnerving. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to let Raphael watch it.
Yeah, there was a couple disturbing death scenes.
Well, the wood beast scene, when I was a kid.
When they had to stick their hands in the thing, in the holes.
That messed me up so bad. Like, you don't even understand. I had this thing about scorpions as a kid, or I saw one and it kind of messed me up a little bit. And to see that stinger thing, and it's giant. I mean, it's not like a little scorpion. It's, you know, the size of a football. Going back to football, and it's like pulsating, like a throbbing member. I guess, I don't know. It's like a scorpion member, and then you stick your hand in there, and then it stings you, and it basically drives you insane with painful dying, and then you beg to die. Mm-hmm. You tell the guy, and remember, I'm 7 when I watched this at summer camp. Sorry, Mom. And yeah, you spend money for that.
Who thought it was a good idea to take a bunch of 7-year-olds to see
80s.
Flash Gordon?
It was the 80s. People were, you know, we weren't
Oh, it was rated
breakable little children.
It was a PG rated movie, so
yeah, I mean PG. Okay, and like the Topol's, the Zarkov scene, Topol plays Zarkov. I had to look that up because Topol, like the guy's got one name, like Madonna. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he had to be in Fiddler on the Roof, right? That was the guy. If I were a rich man, that had to be him.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't look it up, but it has to be him. So anyway, Topol, who plays Dr. Zarkov, they do this thing where they say, we're gonna suck out your memories. We're gonna suck out everything that makes you you. And they go all the way back, and he sees like all these memories.
Yes.
Oh, and then I wrote down that Clytus goes, now he showed promise, and he's talking about Hitler when he's watching his memories, because Zarkov actually survived the Holocaust. Like that's what, if you watch that scene, he's fleeing the Nazis, right?
Yes.
So, but it takes him back all the way to the embryo. Like you see him as an embryo, and again, you gotta remember. The first time I saw this, I was messed the fuck up, man, because, you know, I barely understood the concept of life at that point. So I'm watching him get all of his memories sucked out to the point where he's an embryo, and then they, like, reprogram him to be this infiltrator, basically. But it backfires because he says, I remembered my Shakespeare, and I quoted the Torah in my head, and I just did all these things so they couldn't take my memories. And I was like, good for him, man.
He shielded himself.
Yeah, but I thought he was going to be a double. I thought he was going to be a traitor. And I thought that the princess was going to betray them, too.
Me too.
When I was like, oh, she's going to show up at the throne room and be like, see, Dad, I caught him. They put me back in your good graces or whatever. Yeah. Also, I kind of don't want to know what a boreworm is. It sounded bad.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, now as an adult, I'm like, is it like a sex thing? Or was it like it bored into their skin? All that horrible shit in this world. It was nothing good, that's for sure. Because that was when she was like, yeah, when he put the boreworms on me, and my dad was like, yeah, that's cool. That was when she was 100% like, fuck this guy. I'm done with him. So, also there's that swamp creature thing that like tries to eat Flash. I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about it. It's like this giant
that came up out of the ground?
Yeah, it was like a bigger version of the stump beast, they call it, I guess. Yeah, and it like tries to eat him. But the funny thing is, the prince, I'll just call him Prince Timothy Dalton. I don't remember his name.
Prince Baron.
Baron, that's right. Prince Baron. He shoots the monster so he can kill Flash. I was like, that's pretty. That's hate right there, man. If or mercy, I don't know. It looked like a bad way to die. That's for sure. And Richard O'Brien is in this movie too. Don't you know?
Oh, it's astounding.
It is astounding. Madness takes its toll.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that guy's voice. Him and Clytus should just sadly Clytus died last year. He's 90 years old last year and died. Richard O'Brien is still kicking around though, so we should have him on the podcast.
Make it happen.
I got to make that happen for sure. So what else? So we have the plot, like Madison told you, and so Flash is just like thrust all over the kingdom, and it's kind of interesting because he gets to see all the different kingdoms. And remember, this was a serial, a comic from back in the 30s, right? Maybe even before the 30s. So my grandfather probably read Flash Gordon. In fact, I know he did, because I think he mentioned it to me a few times. But so it's cool how it starts out too. The movie starts out where they show you the comic strip in the beginning, like the actual Flash Gordon comic, just a few snippets of it so you can get an idea. And they really set that tone of this is going to be something fantastic, as in a fantasy. It's not real, and they didn't even try to really make it too believable, I don't think.
Oh, wait. He also was on a race to save Earth because Ming wanted to destroy Earth.
Yeah, in every good screenplay, you have to have that ticking clock element. And so in this, they have the basically what happened is Ming basically stumbles onto Earth, and every 1,000 years he unleashes horrible weather patterns onto each planet that he attacks or whatever. And then he says, okay, if you can determine that I have caused this and it's not just natural, then you are a threat to me because you're too smart, and so I have to take you out. And so he kind of tells Zarkov that, hey, by the way, you're the reason that I'm destroying the Earth now, because you were the only one that knew that it was not just some kind of natural disaster happening all over the place. So Ming... Oh, one of the things that I read was that at the very beginning of the movie, you see all the weapons that Ming is using, and he's using an attack called Earthquake, but he's never heard of Earth. So it's kind of one of those little whatever. It's like, who cares? There's so many goofs in movies and stuff, but some of the back or behind the scenes stuff that happened on this movie, turns out Sam Jones was actually dubbed. I don't think that's his voice, because he got into a giant fight with the director and the producer, and they asked him to come back and do some ADR stuff, and he was like no, or he left the set and never came back at one point, and they had to like just redo
for the whole movie.
Yeah, there was a point where he's just gone.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how this was received at the time, as far as like Ebert and some of these other critics, but I can't imagine that they gave it a lot of nice Nellyisms. I think they probably just destroyed it. I can't imagine they were like 2 thumbs up or anything like that. Again, 1980, so they were around back then.
Yes, they were. But wait, you just made me think of something. Would it be called an earthquake on Mars, or would it be called a Mars quake?
I think you just call it a quake.
Oh.
But again, anytime you watch these things, that's what I was going to say. You have to suspend so much disbelief, because the fact that everybody speaks English. You just have to do that, because unless you make it a big part of your story and it's interesting, it takes up so much freaking time, and nobody has time for that. One of the Babel fish in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's like this fish that you like eat or something, and then everybody can understand. Yeah, you don't like fish. Everybody can understand you, and you can understand them, and it's just one of these convenient, devices that just moves the plot along. And that's even in a book where you don't really need that kind of stuff, but in a movie you need that kind of crap. But again, you don't, you just have to just go with it and have fun. But yeah, that was one of the main things that they talked about being a problem, was the tone on set. And then there was a lot of Italians, and they didn't really speak any English, so there was a lot of lost in translation moments and a lot of ad-libbing and stuff like that was done. So, some of my notes that I have here. So the things that really bothered me, the scenes that really bothered me as a kid, when Clytus dies and his eyes bug out of his head and his tongue comes out of his head, that was really gross. Every time one of those people died that screams. Nobody died easy in this movie. Like, they all died screaming horribly.
Oh, yeah, the Red Guards. They made really weird noises when they moved and when they died.
Yeah, they were pretty much the worst of any guard I've ever... I mean, they made, the stormtroopers look like actual elite troopers. Yeah, they were terrible. They couldn't hit shit. They couldn't see shit. They looked like they had gas masks on. But okay, the costumes in this movie, though, were fucking amazing.
Yes, I wrote down the costumes, and the sets were very interesting and cool.
Yeah, because I think they tried... And again, I haven't looked at the comic, but I believe when you look at the beginning where they show the comic strip, it looks like the same type of the style and everything like that. So there needs to be a lot of credit given to trying to keep it as close to the comics as possible. I did read that Clytus was added for the movie. He's not in the comics at all. So they added that element. But yeah, the costumes. It weighed 70 pounds. The Ming costume weighed 70 pounds, and Max von Sydow, who played Ming the Merciless, actually had to stand around. He could only do like a few, shots at a time, and then he was like, "Get me out of this damn thing! It's killing me!" The Hawkmen, they couldn't sit because the wings would dig into their backs funny. So
Yeah.
The woman who played Dale said that when they were in between shoots, they'd just be lying on their stomachs, like looking like they were about to take off the whole time. They're lined up in rows of birdmen. So that must have been an interesting thing on set. But yeah, there's some really kind of cool. And that's the thing I like about doing older movies, is because a lot of the good trivia comes out, and you do a modern movie trying to find behind the scenes rabble rousing and problems on the set and all that kind of stuff. It takes a lot more digging, a lot more research.
Yes.
Oh, I put this in here, and then we'll segue into your Star Wars tie-ins. I want to give you that opportunity. But I guess everybody on set that had a gun kept going pew pew.
Ha! Nice.
Which reminds me of supposedly Holdo from Lord Dern in The Last Jedi. Supposedly there's some that made it to the final cut where she's actually going pew pew, and they were all mad at her for that. So it's kind of hard to take the kid out of the actors, I think, because when you're a kid, that's what you do. You run around and go pew pew pew, So, and when you're on a space movie where everybody's dressed like, ridiculous costumes and you have these crazy guns and stuff. But Brian Blessed, the guy who played, the head of the Hawkmen, Valtor or whatever, he's the one that admitted that everybody was going to run around doing that on set.
Well, wasn't there a story when they were filming Attack of the Clones that Hayden Christensen was making the lightsaber noises?
Yes, I heard that. Actually, and Ewan McGregor, too.
And they had to stop them and say, "We add those post-production."
Yeah, like, stop doing it, because
okay.
you can see your mouth.
Yeah.
Shoot, 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 shoot. Oh, so the dumb
That's
shirt.
Cute.
I wrote dumb shirt. The whole reason about the shirt, there's a backstory to it.
Well, okay, let's talk about the shirt. So, in the beginning of the movie...
Yeah.
Flash Gordon is wearing a shirt. It's like a ringer shirt, I guess you would describe it as.
Yeah.
It's a white shirt with the red ringers.
Mm-hmm.
And it says Flash. Big red letters across the chest of it.
So it'd be like if I wore a shirt that said Rick, or you wore a shirt that said Madison. It'd be kind of a little conceited.
Yeah, like, are you special or obsessed much?
Do you forget who you are occasionally, and you need like I'm Flash, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a backstory behind that. Apparently, the backstory is that one of his fans gave him that, and it was like a hot girl fan. Remember, he's supposed to be the New York Jets quarterback, and so this backstory is that some girl gave him this shirt, and so he was wearing it to be like, oh, look, I'm wearing the shirt that you gave me, to be like, cool.
So his character... Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said, there's a backstory, like in the actual, in the movie, backstory.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought, when I read that, I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense. But they never mention it in the movie, so you're just like, wow. It's kind of like if you're in a band, and you wear your own band shirt. You never do that. Like, if you're Metallica, you can't wear a Metallica shirt as much as you like, because Metallica's awesome. You'd like to. They're never gonna wear a Megadeth shirt. That's obvious. But like Guns N' Roses, whatever.
Well, they could have thrown that in at one point when they were on the plane.
Well, they did that whole weird backstory about the where he saw her. Oh, I saw you at the bar in the hotel, but you were alone. And she's like, well, she like apologized for being alone. I thought that's so funny that would never happen in a 2019 movie. What do you mean? I have to give you a reason. I'm a strong
woman and I don't need no man.
Yeah, I don't need no man around here.
She could have said, oh, nice shirt, Flash. What do you forget your name? And he could have said, no, this cute fan of mine gave it to me. She's not insane at all.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is actually really good dialogue right there. And you just moved it. You told us exactly why he's wearing this friggin' ridiculous shirt. But
I should write movies.
Shirt. It is a cool shirt. Like I would actually like to wear that shirt, but I'm not Flash Gordon.
No.
So it
would be silly.
It would be okay if I wore it. Is what I'm saying. So let's talk about the Star Wars tie-ins.
So apparently George Lucas just loved the Flash Gordon serials as a kid, and so he wanted to make them more modern, but somebody else, Federico Fellini, was optioning the rights at the time.
Yes.
So thank you, Federico Fellini, because Lucas went on to write Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, instead. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have our Star Wars.
That's true.
So that's pretty interesting. I did notice a little bit of Star Wars-ness in Flash Gordon.
Well, you know about Lobot, right? I mentioned Lobot there. So the guy, remember that was one of the scenes that also bothered me as a kid, where they ripped that thing off that guy's face and you see all the circuits in his face and his eyes. Well, that was Lobot.
That was the same actor that played Lobot.
Yes.
He was one of Kalidas' observers.
Yes.
And he had an imager device instead of eyeballs.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yes, I'm talking about the imaging device, yes.
Yeah. So when they ripped it off his face and you saw the dangling circuits, it's kind of funny because in Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, he had a similar distinguishing feature, a cybernetic device installed over his ears.
Yes. That's Lobot. Everybody knows Lobot.
Yeah, we all know Lobot.
Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't recognize... I mean, I don't know why I would recognize him, but yeah, I guess that was Lobot. So. Yep. So I found out that whole scene where she's doing that weird cheerleading when he's playing the football, he's doing the football assault. The go Flash, go Flash, go. She did that. That was all.
Which is what led to him being executed.
Okay, now let's talk about the execution. So he's wearing these little black underpants.
Oh, they're like leather. Or vinyl. That's it. That's all he's wearing.
That's all he's wearing, ladies and gentlemen.
It was almost a thong.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But, I mean, in the 70s, yeah.
Almost a bikini bottom.
Yeah, in fact, it reminded me of the guy in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too, only it wasn't gold.
Yeah, it was black. Yeah, because he was going to be executed. So there's this big elaborate escape where they fake his death, and then that's how he ends up. Yeah, obviously. And that's how he ends up going on this crazy adventure where he says that he wants to get everybody to team up. And oddly enough, nobody knew what team up meant, which I thought was interesting. It's like they know about all these other like American, all these other Earth kind of jargon and stuff like that, but they didn't understand team up. The concept of teaming up, I guess that maybe that was supposed to be like it's so unheard of that with Ming. Oh, and Ming the Merciless, apparently he gets that name from Dale in a scene that's cut.
Oh.
Where he's doing something and then she says, you're absolutely merciless. And then he likes it. He's like, oh, I like that. And so he's like, Ming the Merciless. Yeah, so, I don't know.
Well, he is because he obliviates planets.
Yeah. And
I made a comment about that.
Yeah, well, he does it for fun.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's like, I do it because I can. But, okay.
Can I just say, to quote Norm Macdonald, he's a real jerk.
Oh, damn. It's a good thing we have that explicit label.
He's a real jerk.
It's a real jerk. Oh, people get engaged pretty quickly in this movie. There's like 2 engagements that happen with a flash. Haha.
Ha.
Yeah.
One, the people knew each other a long time. One, the people had just met.
Yeah, so if you know what we're talking about, or you've watched the movie, you'll see what we're talking about there.
Yeah. And then, on another note, but kind of related, they tried to make Dale marry Ming. I don't think we talked about that, did we?
No, we didn't talk about that. But
Poor Dale.
I wanted to say that not only that, but Ming gives him this opportunity at the end of the movie that is, I gotta admit, it would be hard for me to turn that down. He's like, you go back to Earth as my kind of, harbinger or whatever, and you're going to be the king of Earth, and I'll let you rule it as long as as long as it whims me or whatever, as long as I want to. And Flash is like, nah, I'm good. I'd rather stay here on this about to explode rock that you have no follow through, and you let me get away on a rocket cycle.
Yeah.
It is like I wrote down a sky ski because it looks like a freaking jet ski.
It does look like a jet ski.
But
it was a rocket cycle.
Rocket cycle. So he escapes on this rocket cycle. It's kind of almost like that like in the scene where in A New Hope where they stop firing. Oh, save your space lasers. It's just droids or there's no life forms. We don't want to shoot at this pod that escaped that might actually have the plans to whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. It's kind of, and again, you have to do that with these movies because you have to let your hero be heroic and get to the end and defeat the bad guy and all that good stuff. Oh, I mentioned the upside down kiss. There's like a Sleeping Beauty upside down kiss that the princess gives to wake Flash up after the execution, and it was upside down in the way that we see it because she's kind of like the Spider-Man kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's tons of Queen riffs throughout this movie, and it's funny though because I know Queen is super talented, and there were moments where I was like, this almost sounds cheesy, and then it dawned on me about halfway in the movie they're doing this deliberately. It has that serial old 50s serial sound, like where we're gonna get those Martians, guys, and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, they're doing that deliberately. That's genius. So it actually worked perfectly. Although there were a few times I kept doing, and I apologize, you saw me raising my hand and going, this is it. This is the moment. This is the part where Queen goes, Flash, King of the Impossible. And that's like this big...
And then it wasn't.
And it wasn't. I was like, wait. And I'm like, King of the Impossible. I'm like, damn
and
it,
then it
this
wasn't.
Isn't it. And then I realized...
And then it wasn't.
It's actually the whole last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yes.
It's just Queen. Flash.
Oh.
So as a kid, I just remember that moment where they're playing that music and he's coming in on that rocket cycle, and you're just like, this is the most amazing moment of my life right now. Watching this crazy guy go after this entire palace on a rocket cycle. Oh, it's great.
And his little leotard.
Yeah, his little onesie. Oh, and of course, my favorite line in the movie, besides lying bitch, is dive. And then he says it twice. It's awesome.
I liked at the end when they said, "Hail Flash!"
Yeah, they did that. What about when the Hawkman spelled out, thanks?
That was
Flash.
cute. That was very cute.
Alright, so we're going to introduce a new bit here. Then some other podcasts do this, and I don't care. We're going to do it too. It's the fantasy casting. So I found out that Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually originally in line to be Flash, but his accent was so terrible. It was so hard. Which is kind of ironic when you think about it, because they ended up having to dub most of Sam Jones anyway.
Yeah.
Poor Arnold. But anyway,
Poor
I guess he did
Arnold.
alright. He did alright. Dino De Laurentiis put him in other stuff. Put him in Conan. Made him a freaking star. That's where I first saw Arnold Schwarzenegger was Conan. I love Dino De Laurentiis. He did some really great movies from my childhood. So, but yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger was originally like really in the running for that. So who would you cast? Let's say today, not in 1980. Who cares? Let's talk about today. Who would you cast today in the 1980 version of Flash Gordon?
If they were remaking it?
No, like if you had like a Wayback Machine and you could just take this actor from today, just plop him into this exact movie. like shot for shot. It's not a remake. It's like some kind of Quantum Leap type situation, but he's the actual actor.
Chris Pratt.
Okay, yeah, Chris Pratt. Because they actually wanted Kurt Russell. He didn't like the script. He said this character has no personality, which he wasn't wrong. So yeah, Kurt Russell.
Inane
was
commentary.
Who they wanted. Yeah, and you know how I love Kurt Russell because I love Brick Danger Vest, or what's his name? Danger Vest.
Yes.
Rex.
Rex Danger Vest.
Rex Danger
that
Vest.
wasn't Kurt Russell.
I know, but to me it was Kurt Russell in my mind.
Chris Pratt would be good.
Oh, he'd be great. Yeah. But like, who's like a good comedian right now that would be like
Ryan Reynolds, but he's already Deadpool and Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, seriously, that's just too on. What about Dale?
The girl.
The girl. Brie Larson. Triggered.
I don't know. Who would you pick?
Oh God. I was gonna say Sandra Bullock. It'd have to be somebody a little bit younger though.
Yes.
Ooh, what about that girl from the other two?
Is that her name Casey?
I don't know. I just know she's in the other two right now. I mean, we just started watching it. I think she'd be good. Kristen Wiig would be good too, probably.
Helene York. Oh, she plays Brooke.
Yeah.
She could be good.
Yeah. Oh, or the lady on Corporate. She's psychotic. She'd be awesome. With the face, with the really long, thin face. The executive who's like a psychopath. She'd be cool too. I don't know. I don't know a lot of the hip actresses right now.
Anne Dudek, who plays Kate.
Yeah, she'd be good.
Yeah, she'd be good.
I mean, I think anybody... I mean, personally, I would have loved to have been on this movie. I don't care. It sounds like it would have been a blast to be on, even though they had a lot of problems and stuff like that with... I guess Sam Jones got in fights all the time. That was eventually what led him to leave, yeah. He actually got in so many fights that at one point he was in the hospital because he had a big scar on his face, and the producer, or the director, one of them, came in and was like, alright, his face is fine, and then... because that was all they really cared about, yeah.
I wonder what the issue was.
He just liked to fight, which is what they show, I guess, in Ted, is that he's like totally out of his mind. He's like doing cocaine and everything, and
yeah,
which is really funny because I was like, "Whoa, he's out of his mind." And I guess I don't know, maybe he's really like that, or he was in the '80s. He probably was like that in the '80s because a lot of people were like that in the '80s.
It was the '80s.
It was the '80s. It's just kind of what you did, you know.
Yep. Me, though.
You had to kill some hookers and you had to do some blow. I'm sorry.
Anyways.
Oh, I said a universe building. I think they did a really good job with the universe building because they had all the different, planets.
And the different people from each area.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody had a distinct... Again, maybe it was kind of one-dimensional. All the Hawk people had the same mannerisms. They all kept doing that thing with their head. Twitching their head.
They were supposed to be part hawk.
Well, it reminded me of Joey Fatone as the rabbit on the Masked Singer, where he's kept moving twitching his head. But I noticed that the head Hawkman, he wasn't doing that because I was like, he's the leader, he doesn't have to do that crap. But all like the little Hawk henchmen, the Hawkchmen, I don't know, they were doing it all the time, and I never noticed that until this last watching of it, I guess. I really liked the scene with the fight on the spikes. That was really cool.
On the big thing that kept tilting?
Yeah.
Platform?
Yeah, with the remote control. He's like, give me the remote control. And he was kind of a dick. When you think about it, the Hawkman guy was like a dick. And again, everybody, that's what he meant. Like, everywhere he goes, people are trying to kill him. He's like having to fight for his life. Which is ironic, because that's Sam Jones. He was fighting. So he was really in character the whole time he was on set, probably.
He did escape death many times, his character.
Yeah, he really does. Who better than you to rule a kingdom? That's what he said to him when he was offering him, like, I totally forgot about that, too. Oh, and then who wants to live forever? Now on Twitter, I posted out, hey, we just watched our movie. I'm going to give a hint. Every retweet, I'll give one hint. So my first image on Twitter was the now head coach of the New York Jets, who used to be Adam Gase, who used to be the Dolphins head coach. And it's the famous one where he looks like he's googly-eyed and he has no idea what the hell's going on. He's at that press conference. And you even saw it probably because it's a popular GIF right now. He's like, "Aah." So I posted that because it's the New York Jets. So that was my first clue. And then one person retweeted it. Thanks, one fucking person. So they retweeted it. And so I put down the clue as, who wants to live forever? Because that's a line that the Hawk leader says as right when they go in to dive and attack and everything like that. Which, if you know Highlander, that's their whole thing. Who wants to live forever? That's Highlander, and that was done by
Queen.
Yes.
What is Queen?
What is Queen? Oh, we can't talk about that today.
Sorry.
We can't do that today. Oh man. So Dale's poster unveiling. Oh, I thought that was really cool when she had that big like at the. She looked really good in all the different costumes they had her in.
Everybody did.
Yeah, but I mean, like she had all these different iterations of costume that they put her in. But then the wedding one, I thought that was really cool. She was like in all black, right? Or was she in all? Yeah, she was all in black, and then the daughter was all in white. So there was that kind of contrast thing going on. But when they like unveiled that poster, I was like, that must have been kind of cool for the actress just to see like, wow, that's a big ass poster of me being unveiled right now. I thought that was kind of cool.
I didn't have a big ass poster at my wedding.
No, you didn't. We had, for those that want to know, our hollow wedding, we had images of ourselves in decaying states because we went to Magic Kingdom and we went to Haunted Mansion and we had our pictures taken as ghosts.
Yes, we were ghosts.
Yeah. Not everybody thought that was cool, but I thought it was cool.
We liked it.
Yeah.
Big 11 by 14 pictures or 8 by 10 pictures.
Well, you know.
And these cool frames.
Oh, the ring bit. That I put the ring bit. That was a part where it's like, who has the ring? Oh, I don't have the ring. The other. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm talking about with the comedy. It's like, why would you interject that right now in this moment where it's supposed to be this big impactful moment? Do you have the ring? Oh, the ring. I forgot the. It's so cliche and so cheesy and tacked on. I was just like, oh man, it kind of didn't do that great for me.
No.
All right, so another bit that we're gonna do is how should it have ended? So that's like a fantasy how you would have liked the movie to end. But before we talk about that, I want to say that they didn't know how to end the movie. He was supposed to have this giant sword fight with Ming at the end, but because he left the set, they couldn't do it. Right?
Ah.
So they didn't know how to end the movie. Now, I don't know. I could be conflating two things, but they didn't know how to end the movie. So when he did that "yeah" thing, where the robot droid was gonna like blast him, but instead he says "Hail Flash," and then he jumps up, and you were even like, "What the hell?" And that was pretty much how the movie ends, right there.
That's right. He just jumped up.
They didn't know how to end it, so that was the end. So he improvised that. But again, I could be conflating because. Now, if I'm hearing that there was supposed to be this giant sword fight with Ming, and they had to cut it because... Maybe they had to cut it for budget more than because Sam Jones left.
But he had already...
Yeah, because he'd already killed him.
Yeah, with the rocket thing. Not the rocket cycle thing, but the big rocket
Ajax. It was the warship Ajax. I took that down because I thought, oh, that's interesting. I didn't catch that when I was a kid, obviously. So how would you have ended the movie?
Well, it kind of ended in a cliffhanger because they never made it back to Earth.
Yeah, and
we know that they saved Earth.
I didn't know that because there was a throwaway line where the guy's like, "Oh yeah, we saved Earth like 5 minutes ago" or something like that.
Yeah.
When the time is ticking down and you're like, "Oh, Earth is fucked." It goes 3, 2, 1, 0, and you're like, "That's it." And then this guy, this Hawkman, is like, "Oh no, yeah, we disabled that thing like an hour ago." Or whatever.
So they saved Earth from total annihilation.
Total annihilation.
But they didn't make it back to Earth. So what are the New York Jets going to do without their quarterback?
Oh, God. The New York Jets suck. I don't know.
What about Dale's family? What about...
Dr. Zarkov? What about his assistant?
What about his assistant that ran away?
Yeah, Mongol. I love that part, too, by the way, where he's, like, trying to convince him to get in the rocket ship. And
pack a toothbrush.
Yeah, pack a toothbrush. He pulls a gun on him. I'm like...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, okay, so we never do find out, but that's why at the end they put... Oh, wait, but how would you end it?
I would have had them somehow get a message to Earth to let their Earth people know that they were okay and safe.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to continue living on this other planet if they chose to stay on the other planet.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I was going to live on another planet, I would want my Earth people to know that I was okay and that I wasn't, like, dead or anything.
Yeah.
Or I would, like, go back to Earth.
I'd say the way I would end it would be he would have taken the deal with Ming. He would have gone back to Earth as a conqueror. He'd have been the king of Earth, and anybody who got in his way, he'd, like, deal with them. But then he would go back for Dale. He would rise up in a rebellion with Earth's, armies, and he would, like, fuck up Ming, and he would unite all of the kingdoms of Mongo under him, and then he would be Emperor Flash Gordon. Scene. But yeah, apparently what happened was the end, and then they show the ring, and then it disappears, and then they show the question mark, the end,
yes.
question mark, and you hear his laugh.
Yes.
There was supposed to be a sequel, but obviously that didn't happen because it didn't do so well in the box office. There was only little 7-year-olds like me that were like, this is amazing, this is great, oh my god, look at that thing, it's terrifying, So, yeah, it didn't do so great. So I don't know what, Ebert and them gave it.
Yeah, the budget was $20 million estimated in 1980 money.
Yeah.
And the opening weekend in the U.S. it only made $3.9 million.
Wow, that's like shit in the bed. That's like diarrheaing in the bed. That's bad.
Yeah.
Damn.
So.
Well, again, George Lucas lucked out by not making this movie.
Yes, thank you.
Although, that would be interesting if George Lucas, like in an alternate universe,
Woo!
what if he had gotten the rights to it and never made Star Wars? Oh my god. I can't even imagine a world without Star Wars.
I'm going to go in the corner and cry now.
Yeah, seriously, that is a devastating world.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
No.
It's like that whole when they had A Day Without a Mexican, and they were like, what would happen if you got rid of all the Mexicans, and A Day Without a Woman, whenever they do that kind of thing. I cannot, honestly, to God, I cannot imagine my life without Star Wars existing.
No.
On some plane of existence, because it's just, yeah. So Flash Gordon, he never makes Star Wars. Instead, he makes Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon flops horribly. We never hear from George Lucas ever again. He moves to Idaho, and he makes boats.
I seriously feel like I'm going to vomit. You need to stop this right now.
It didn't happen. Everything's fine. Flash Gordon got made, and Star Wars got made, and they went in their own different ways. And now we're about a few months away from Episode 9, the culmination of the end of Star Wars.
And a whole new land in Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Oh my god, we're so gonna just quit our jobs and go just work there.
No, we're not.
The funny thing, though, is I wonder how many people they have turned away for job applications at Galaxy's Edge. I mean, my god. There are people that are like, you don't even have to fucking pay me. Just give me food.
I just want to work here.
Just give me food and water. I'll live in the underground of Disney and just make me part of this Galaxy's Edge. Just make me part of it. And they would do that. Maybe I'm one of those people. I'm not saying I am, but maybe I am.
When we retire, we can work there.
Yeah, we've talked about that. So this is what they say. I want to read this because I might have messed it up. According to the book Dino, The Life and Film of Dino De Laurentiis, Sam J. Jones kept getting into fights during the filming of the movie. At one point, Jones was in the hospital with a big scrape on his face, and De Laurentiis himself barged into the operating room to make sure they fixed his face, so as not to leave a visible scar. But Jones kept causing trouble, and then at Christmas, he left for Los Angeles and never returned. So De Laurentiis recalls that he told Mike Hodges, "We'll keep going with the very best stand-in you can find."
Wow.
My God. Yeah, so I also saw one of the filmmakers said something like, this is the this is the only $23 million movie that's basically all improvised that I've ever been a part of. Like, the whole movie was just kind of, because they had translators on the set for the Italians, and then the Italian person, like, I think like maybe like one of the script supervisors was like Italian, and they were like, go in there, say this line, and they had a translator, and the translator would say, just like, pick up that book, would be like, there's a cat on the chair, you know, like it had nothing to do with anything. It was just complete garbage what they were being told. And so, you know, the actors are like, that doesn't make any sense. So they would just kind of say whatever they wanted to say. Yeah, and I guess Richard O'Brien was friends with the director.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kept like sitting in different people's chairs, like, you know how the actors always have their names and everything.
Yes.
So he would do this, and there's a famous on his IMDb page. And I'm gonna try and do it, but like him sitting there with his, just kind of like owning the chair.
Yes.
And he did that so much that the other people on set were getting pissed because he was kind of taking advantage of the fact that he was fraternizing with the boss, you know. So it's kind of funny. But I think we covered just about everything, and if I don't have anything else from you...
I don't have anything else.
I think I'm going to go ahead and reveal the amazing word of the day.
You win.
Dictionary.com's word of the day is nice Nellyism, which is kind of a euphemism for just powder puff press reports and just kind of prudish, you know, fluffy lightness where you're not really saying anything important. So I also wanted to say we just found out some really bad news, and I wanted to offer our condolences to Alex Trebek.
Oh, God, yes.
Because we just found out that he has been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And one of my best friends in Norway passed away from that at 27 years old. So, and he was a fighter. So I really hope that Alex Trebek can fight this and beat this. We're big Jeopardy fans. We just watched the whole tournament of champions where they had the teams and everything like that. Their 35-year big event that they had. So
it was a lot of fun. It was really cool, different.
Yeah, and so I really do hope that Alex Trebek pulls through this.
Yep.
So, anyway, thank you very much for checking us out. I am Rick Swift, and that is...
I am Madison Swift, and make sure you tune in next time for my She Pick.
Yes, we won't tell you what it is, but do you want to give him a clue? Give him a clue. That's kind of a clue. I'm getting such a clue.
It's definitely bigger.
Yes.
And longer.
Yes, those are good clues.
That's all I'm going to say.
I'm getting such a clue.
Bye.
Bye.